Hello and welcome to this edition of Political Capital, the show where Delhi meets Dalal Street. I am Siddharth Zarabi. The upcoming coal block auction is Energy Minister Piyush Goyal's first big test as in the government. The government has already arrived at the base price and reserve price after a crucial inter-ministerial group meeting that was held just a little while ago. Meanwhile, Goyal has also held a number of meetings to fix the roadblocks in the power sector. Is this government headed in the right direction? Is Goyal the man for the job? Joining me soon to talk about all of these issues is Mr. S.L. Rao, the first chairman of India's electricity regulator, the CERC. Also with us, Rajiv Gowda, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson for the All India Congress Committee, and Kalpana Jain, senior director at Deloitte India, an expert on India's energy infrastructure needs. But before I go to them, Mehak Kasbekar joins me, and she's going to tell us about where things stand at this point of time. Mehak, we're not doing a 6-month summation of the power ministry, the energy portfolio, combined portfolio, so to say, and we've just been reporting about this latest meeting, which is crucial to the ultimate auction that is supposed to take place. Tell us, what is the latest as far as the coal block auction is concerned? Some reserve price seems to have been arrived at.
Well, Siddharth, the first instance has come out, at least the first news on what those auctions are going to look like. And as you rightly said, a lot could go wrong. There's a big question mark. This will be the litmus test on how the government is going to handle these auctions. Let's quickly talk about those numbers of reserve price which has come out at this point in time. It's 100 rupees a ton for power companies. For all non-power sectors, it's 150 rupees a ton. If I put that into perspective, not a lot that the government is giving away. CIL's notified price when you go in to buy a coal is usually between 230, 275, depending on where you're buying that coal from. What needed to be taken into consideration for capping of tariffs or making sure tariffs don't go up is a 20% discount to that at least. Reserve price being at 100 rupees a ton will have...
Hang in there, Mehak. For our viewers, let's focus for a minute on the reserve price. Are you saying that the reserve price is in line with general expectations of industry? And is there a benchmark rate that you can refer us to?
So there are two aspects to this, Siddharth, at this point in time. As I said, the government has kept its cards closed, which way the auction will go, but they've kept it at a bare minimum at 100 rupees a ton. It will have to depend on really whether bids will be attracted enough, how many companies come forward now and go ahead and bid for it, a demand and supply issue on how they will go ahead. Because remember, tariffs are also going to be capped, which no details have been, have come out as yet. Tomorrow, I believe the cabinet will be taking up the tender document and passing it, and that's when the tender document will come into the public domain. That tariff capping number on what percentage is going to be will determine whether this reserve price is really right or not at this point in time.
Okay, so Mehak, what you are saying, and this is for our viewers at this stage, just to recap, inter-ministerial group has just now met just half an hour or an hour back. And what we are picking up is that 100 rupees per ton is the reserve price for power companies. That is the price at which bidding will start. And it's 150, a 50% escalation for non-power companies. What will this lead into eventually in terms of the capped tariffs also? Those are details that we'll come to subsequently over the next few days, and hopefully possibly there might be a more detailed statement or details that will come out by the evening on this very important development. Just to mark it once again, one of the first meetings taking place for the eventual coal auction, and there are going to be possibly a series of them that will help us understand at what direction prices will take and what will happen as far as the coal sector needs are concerned. Mehak Kasbekar, thank you very much for bringing those details to us. Let me now go across to Mr. S.L. Rao, one of the foremost experts and early reformers for the power sector in India. Mr. Rao, before I come to the broader question on the entire matter, let me ask you about this one point of what you have just heard as far as the coal auctions go. Stepping back from the immediate news, what is your sense about the direction that we are taking? Because clearly this, if this weren't to be done well, we will be staring at a very bad scenario possibly.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. This scenario that is developing is definitely going to increase the price of coal, and I'm talking about the power sector. Now, that increase in the price of coal must have an effect on power tariffs if the generating companies are not to lose money. Now, from what the minister has been saying, there is no proposal to allow tariffs of power to go up, which means he expects the generators to pay. Now, that is one thing. Second thing is, I would have thought there would have been some indication of how we can move Coal India out of the whole picture. That is not there either. The minister has said earlier that in 3 years' time, there will be a substantial increase in coal production. How this is going to be achieved, I don't know, given that all the constraints of Coal India have continued, including extremely bad management, very backward technology, lot of open cast mines,
right,
no deep mines.
Right.
If you take all this together, I think maybe there is a lot more need for deep thinking.
Okay, that's a very good point, Mr. Rao. You talk about the need for a lot more deep thinking. And before we began this show, I was speaking to several people about the minister himself, because a lot would come to bear from that office, and we'll come back to that topic. But before I do that, let me go across to Congress spokesperson and Rajya Sabha MP Rajiv Gowda, who joins us from New Delhi. Mr. Gowda, if you can hear me, my question to you at this stage is about the larger sense and your view about the manner in which the government is proceeding ahead with one of the most critical points that will impact India's energy security either ways, and this is the coal block auction. Without reference to the specifics of the reserve price, what is your sense about this very crucial issue? What are the signals that the Congress party is picking up on this matter?
Siddharth, this is still evolving, and the details are going to unfold in the coming days. What we are concerned about is what the exact goal of the government is. Is it trying to ensure that coal supply is stored? Is it trying to turn this into a revenue-generating exercise? How is it going to balance those two? And what's the larger impact beyond just the pure coal auction to environment and things of that sort? So we have, but everything is still shrouded in, I wouldn't call it secrecy, but we don't have this information out in the public domain yet, and it's hard to make a judgment. On the other side of it, on the environmental angle, we've started to see a weakening of the national, the Green Tribunal. We've started to see the Wildlife Board weakened. We've started to see a variety of coal and other projects being approved practically on a fast track with those kinds of projects that were held back by the previous board. Now you're seeing them all getting approved very, very quickly. There's development, lots of forests that are going to be cut in Arunachal Pradesh. So in this desire to move towards energy security, we are really concerned that many of the protections that were built in are going to be given short shrift.
Okay, Rajiv, we'll come back to a couple of those important points that you make. Is growth going to be at the cost of the environment? But that's one of the perennial questions around the energy sector. Kalpana, you are a numbers person as well as a details person. It's very easy and tempting for anyone to ask this question: what has happened in 6 months, especially because we are now at the cusp of what will be a very crucial auction. The fact is, as far as the ground level reality is concerned, we do not see a major uptick in coal production that is likely going to happen. And we are also seeing the government look at the prices in this manner. Mr. Gowda made this point about revenue concerns. What is your sense about which way the government is approaching this auction, because remember, a 2010 auction in spectrum actually broke the back of the telecom sector in some ways. Are we going to see a repeat of that?
So Siddharth, it's I found it interesting what you say, that what is the uptick on the ground with respect to what's going to happen. So I think we are still seeing a lot of discussion, and we are beginning to see policies and notifications which are coming in to address the power sector and specifically the coal supply situation. For sure, it's going to take a while for us to see an increase in the production and to see the changes take effect. But what I find heartening from, for example, what has been discussed around the coal linkages auction is that they have liberalized the approach to it in terms of any company which is interested can apply. They have recognized the 3 categories of development in case there were investments and work which went into the mines which were allocated earlier, which were then cancelled by the Supreme Court, as well as there is a recognition to compensate, the need to compensate those mine owners, the erstwhile mine owners, for the land that they acquired as well as the investments.
But Kalpana, I have to interrupt you here by asking you about your sense at this stage, because this is a point that Rajiv made, and I will come back to Mr. Rao about this because he spoke about prices going up. Do you get the sense as an analyst that this is a revenue generation exercise that will ultimately result about through the auctions?
Revenue generation for the government?
Yes.
So this is a commercial economic activity and it should result in some revenue generation. I think there could be a debate and discussion around how inordinate or how expensive the revenue generation should be. But without exception, this is not a societal function. It's the natural resources of the country which need to be put to commercial use, not inordinate commercial use again, as I said.
Right, right. Kalpana,
so that will be determined by the demand and supply.
That's a wonderfully polite way of answering that question, because you know, I honestly was hoping for someone to say that no, it's going to cause a fiscal crisis, but I know that's not the point. Mr. Rao, you've heard both Rajiv and Kalpana on this issue. My pet peeve, tell us which way is the government in your sense headed? Is it going to break the back of industry and then lead to a situation where all that passes on to the consumer? Or do you get the sense that there is enough political sagacity and administrative experience that will not sort of cause a huge uptake in tariffs going forward, sir?
Well, at the moment, it seems to me that this government is caught in a dilemma of political opponents. With the election in Delhi and the Aam Aadmi Party promising reduction in prices of power, I think BJP has no choice except to try and hold back power price increases. At the same time, I would not call this whole thing a revenue generation exercise. What it is that they are giving they're putting some premium on coal per ton, and the Supreme Court also has done that with that 294 rupees. Those costs have to be borne by somebody. It's either by the generating company or by the consumer. Now, if it is going to be borne by the consumer, the regulator has to allow that price to go up. Now, BJP government has shown very clearly in Delhi that they are not for consumer prices going up. When the regulator in Delhi raised tariffs, they rolled it back in 12 hours. So it seems to me that what we are going to see is not a breaking the back of the consumer, it is a breaking the back of the generating company. And I think this is a sad thing, because what we need is a lot more revenue in the hands of the generating company and the distribution company, so they can start spending money. Let me add, if you allow me, one more point to make, which is that the government has inherited a complete and total mess as far as the power sector is concerned. The power sector is creating a huge problem for banking because the enormous amount of bank money that is locked up in the power sector. The populist pricing has resulted in huge losses which have to be met. Now, I think we need a situation where, as the lady Kalpana said, we need to get back to demand-supply parameters. Demand-supply parameters might mean consumer tariffs going up. But along with that, we need to get a lot more efficiency. There is a huge scope for reduction in costs through efficiency improvements, whether it's in transmission, or it's in generation, or it's in distribution. Now, that transmission efficiency, I don't see any signal of anything being done on that scope.
Okay, no signal as far as efficiencies are concerned. That's the view Mr. Rao is taking. Rajiv, Kalpana, Mr. Rao, please hang in there. We'll head out to a short break. When we come back, we'll continue some of the important points that have been raised in this discussion, including will politics derail whatever power reforms that Piyush Goyal has up his sleeve. Don't go away. Welcome back. You are watching Political Capital. Still with me, S.L. Rao, the first chairman of CERC, Rajiv Gowda, Rajya Sabha MP and Congress spokesperson, and energy sector expert Kalpana Jain, senior director at Deloitte India. Before we went to this break, some of the points that our panelists made, and these points made just around the time we have seen one crucial meeting take place as far as the coal e-auction is concerned. For our viewers, just to recap, the proposed timeline, the tender document will be issued on the 21st of December. The bid due dates are the 11th of February 2015. The bidders will get technically qualified on the 3rd of March 2015. The bids actually will take place on the 6th of March. That is just a week after the Union Budget 2015, and the letter of award should be given by the 16th of March. So clearly that month will be very important, and the run-up to that is actually also crucially important. But more on that later. For now, let me go back to Rajiv, who is on the phone with us from Delhi. Rajiv, the point that two of the experts have made on the panel is the sense and fear that politics could derail the proposed reforms. And in that sense, every party, including the Congress and the BJP, would be in the same boat, whether it was Maharashtra or now Delhi, which is headed for elections. What is your sense as far as the need to pass on tariff hikes and to allow for a much more healthier generation sector and viability in this sector? What kind of stance would the Congress take on this very sensitive issue?
Well, across states, across parties, you had basically a concern for the end user and the tariffs that they have to pay. So that is a very, very difficult bullet for any government device to raise tariffs. However, there are other ways of making the companies viable, I suppose. And basically, I don't see politics coming in terms of actual movement on the coal, on the manner in which we are going to allocate coal. This is all a new arrangement that's coming thanks to Supreme Court intervention, and hopefully it will be the beginning of a transparent process that will get the standard assets back in action. We'll get energy, power companies producing again, and eating a variety of those that both the previous government and this one have had. So I don't think at this moment anyone's trying to derail anything in a political sense. It's more, as you said, election rhetoric about cutting tariffs, and that's you've seen a lot of that in Delhi in the last election. That's it's a difficult situation. Let's see how it unfolds.
Okay, Rajiv. So, I'm very tempted to ask you, is what you are saying the equivalent of the Congress party never hitting the streets anywhere if power tariffs were to be raised, regardless of the reasons, but due to the financial necessity that the power sector faces? Is that an assurance that you are holding out to our viewers?
I am not holding out any assurance. I'm just saying we'll have to wait and see, because this is wait to see what kinds of necessities arise, and what you have different parties in power in different states. Every one of them feels the pinch of power sector related expenditures. They all have distribution companies and trading companies that are facing lots of challenges. And so, given this, it's a universal problem, but there are electoral compulsions. I'm not making any assurance whatsoever. I'm in fact trying to, hedge and ensure that we're not making any definitive statements on this count.
Okay, no definitive statements on that count. I agree with that. But for the definitive statement on what is likely the likely benefit or result that has accrued on account of the fact that the power and the coal ministry has been clubbed together, Mr. Rao, you might think of this as a very generic question, but 6-7 months after this government, do you think this is working in some ways? And the scenario that we have vis-a-vis last year, where the target was 482 million tons of production, and we ended up around 10% short of that, or 5% short of that. You think this year would be better? Has this combination of portfolios, according to you, worked for that aspect at least?
I welcome this combination of portfolio when it took place, but I do not see any impact of that so far. What is the problem? The real problem, first of all, just combining coal and power is not much use unless you are having an impact. Now, as far as power is concerned, political populism of every single party, whether it's Yediyurappa in Karnataka, or it's, Badal in Punjab, or it's Congress governments elsewhere, giving power below cost or giving power free has been the bane of this whole industry. Secondly, it is ownership. Distribution owned by states. That has been a disaster. It's been incompetent. Thirdly, the management is given not to career professionals but to bureaucrats. Has also been a big problem. Now, I don't see that this new ministry is doing anything in that score. Now, as far as coal is concerned, the real problem for the power sector was the supply of coal. I don't see that supply of coal is going to improve because of anything that this ministry has so far done.
Okay.
Why is it not done it? I don't know. But they all talk about coal labor unions, coal mafia, and all that. And until we can resolve all this, coal supplies are not going to improve. So I don't see that there is much benefit in combining this so far.
Okay, Mr. Rao, we are almost at the end of the show, and you made this very important point about supply of coal. Kalpana, what are the couple of things, one or two things at best, that you feel that this ministry has so far not at all addressed, and that it is time for the ministry and the minister to start looking at those issues as far as this sector is concerned?
So, Siddharth, I believe that the ministry has made a lot of right noises, if I may say so. They have mentioned a lot of right things. Now we are basically waiting to see the new UMPP norms. They did constitute the advisory committee, but right now it is leaderless. So we need to get that moving, number one. I think there needs to be a lot of work which needs to be done in the transmission and distribution sector as such. That we haven't heard much about. We are still waiting to hear, except for the 3 projects that they announced. But there needs to be private sector participation in that, which again has been talked about, but we are waiting to hear about that. Then the biggest question remains the financial restructuring of the distribution companies, and that is a political minefield as well. So we don't have unless and until the tariffs are increased along with whatever efficiency and productivity changes happen, we really can't say where the power sector is headed. It's extremely important that these are some of the areas which get addressed and we get to hear about from the ministry.
Well, those are several crucial questions, and the only thing that I would like to say before I thank all of you is that this channel will keep coming back to these very crucial points, because beyond the optics, The reality of the energy sector is that if we fix this, we'll fix India. If we don't, we are going to remain a still developing country for many decades, and hopefully that will change with all the good people at the helm of this sector. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao, Kalpana and Rajiv, for your time, taking out the time to discuss these critical issues. For now, that's all we have on this edition of Political Capital. Thanks for watching. We'll keep coming back to you.